Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Engati Engage interview series. I have the privilege and honor of welcoming Professor Andreas Maier to the program today. Dr. Maier studied computer science, graduated in 2005, and then went on to do his PhD and graduate in 2009. He developed the first online speech intelligibility assessment tool called PEAKS, and then moved on to work on a flat panel CRM CT as a postdoctoral fellow at the Radiological Sciences Laboratory in the Department of Radiology at Stanford University. He then returned back to the university at Erlangen-Nuremberg as head of the medical reconstruction group in the pattern recognition lab, and soon became a professor and now heads the pattern recognition lab. In 2018, he was awarded an ERC Synergy Grant 4D Nanoscope, and his current research interests focus on medical imaging, image and audio processing, digital humanities, and interpretable machine learning, and the use of known operators. Welcome, Professor. We are honored and thrilled to have you on this program.
Thank you very much for this introduction. I'm blushing after all these kind words.
No, I think I was checking up on your profile, and it's all very well deserved. So the first question I have for you, Professor, was as a recognized expert in the space of machine learning, which obviously these days the buzz is all around AI, ML, deep learning. Can you share with us some of your thoughts on kind of the current state and the utilization as well as adoption across organizations and different areas across the world?
Yeah, so I must admit that the current state is very interesting because I've been working in pattern recognition and machine learning now for quite some time, and right now the field is really lifting off. It's really crazy how much interest we see right now, and this has also led to a lot of investment by industry. What I particularly like are the many ideas that people are coming up with how to use this technology in a very smart way. Mm-hmm. So we've a couple of years ago, when we're stuck to classification problems with, let's say, 5 to 10 classes and so on, then we were, of course, very limited and could only solve smaller applications and small steps. But today you see computer programs playing StarCraft and Go and chess and so on. So it's really great to see how we are advancing in the field and how many seemingly high impact advances we have been making in the last couple of years. So it's very interesting to be a researcher in this time in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I can sense it from the passion that you have. So a question I had in one of your recent publications, which talked about do algorithms harm our kids?
Yeah.
Right. And we are in very interesting times. Obviously, we are, in the midst of a global pandemic, something that nobody would have ever predicted. Parents are obviously kind of resorting to, the best available means of keeping kids busy is, put them on a laptop or a tablet and, let them continuously watch YouTube. Yeah. Right. And it obviously keeps them busy, but it's scary at the same time, right? And I think you alluded and talked a lot about it, in terms of, do you let the algorithms of YouTube dictate what the kid is going to watch next? So what are your viewpoints about this and advice to parents at this time?
Yeah, so it's very interesting that you bring up this point, because this is mainly something that I wrote not as a researcher in machine learning, but as a parent.
Yeah.
And there are people out there that then are telling, okay, there's these algorithms, and they're selecting what kind of videos are being watched. It even goes this far that some people seem to produce videos entitled with certain buzzwords such that the algorithm selects those videos automatically for replay. And of course, that's a weakness that's being exploited here. But the main reason why they are successful is obviously, the algorithm selects them, but there's some demand also for watching such kind of videos. And obviously, the audience that seems to be affected by this is really watching those videos and it's not turning them down. And the reason seems to be that these are kids of very young age, and they're just continuously watching the stream of nice animations and fancy sounds. And the question that I was bringing up is, well, is it the algorithms that degenerate our kids, or should we actually be a bit careful in what our kids are doing with tablets? And then in the blog post that you mentioned, I'm making some suggestions. Instead of watching YouTube all the time, there's many other things that you can do. There's very, very good educational toys that I also enjoy playing with my kids. So
Right.
things like Amazon Free Time, which is pretty good. There's Nintendo Labo, where you're actually manufacturing and understanding certain engineering parts, which is also a very, very educational toy. And obviously, these things cost money, but there's also many good choices that you can find on the internet where you can do it yourself, cardboard games, and so on. So there's a lot of stuff out there. And maybe you don't want to rely only on having your kids watching YouTube.
Right. Yeah. And let the search optimization kind of take over, right?
But it's always in the hand of the user.
Yeah.
I mean, if the kid can't do it, there should be a parent around to guide his kids. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great. I was curious, in terms of, chatbots. I mean, because we, as Engati, as a platform, is in that space. How do you see these technologies kind of being adopted and growing with the advancement, obviously, of machine learning and deep learning and adoption in the coming months and years?
I think chatbots can be an interesting technology. I mean, with my background in speech recognition, we've been working also on speech dialogue systems where you could automate call centers and so on. And you have to find the sweet spot, the application where they really make sense. And I can tell you of a spin-off company that we started with the lab already several years ago. And they put up a telephone system for a larger company. And one of the features of the telephone dialogue system is that you could call in and then just ask for a specific person to be connected to. So they had this directory service. And after a short time, they realized that their dialogue system suddenly had 3 times the number of inquiries than they had previously. And it's because all of the employees started calling their own telephone dialogue system to be connected to other persons. So there's certain tasks that can be automated, and they're actually really helpful. So this was one of the sweet spots. And I'm sure that with chatbots, you can also help being connected to the right person. And they can be a very interesting technology in order to find the information that you need. So yeah, I definitely think that this is a good technology, in particular when they become smarter and can detect emotions. And then, if you have an angry customer, you may want to gratify him somehow with coupons or things like that. This is something that can help.
Right. Sure. Okay. Great. So I was looking up on your profile, and I did come across that you had done I think in 2019 a project that talked about artificial intelligence for reinventing European healthcare. And given we are in the midst of this pandemic, and given the fact that Europe seems to be kind of the epicenter, what do you think has changed since you did that project, and how would you, sitting today, say we should kind of reinvent ourselves to, try and handle such crisis situations going forward?
Yeah, so the project that you're mentioning was actually a summer school, and we've been assembling people from all across Europe to teach recent developments in deep learning, in machine learning, and how to apply it to medical data processes. I think one major problem that we have when we want to build all these deep models is that we need access to data. And one of the things that we have been proposing in this project is that we want to pursue data donation. So we would like to make to build somehow a system where you can donate data and then share it for scientific purposes. Or also, scientific purposes are nice, but at some point, in order to be successful on the healthcare market, you need to develop a product. Because if it's not a medically certified product, it will never be deployed to the actual patient. So we've been thinking about those ideas in data donation. It actually took 3 years to get them GDPR compliant. But now we think we have a system in place where we can at least donate image data and then also reuse it, use it for crowdsourcing to handle all of the annotations. And the nice thing is that you can withdraw your consent at any point. So you have every piece of data that you donate, you get a transaction number, and then you can withdraw the consent. And I think this is a crucial building block if you want to have trust in how the data is being used, that I think is important. And it's probably something that we have a very strong opinion on in Europe.
Right. Yeah. In fact, interestingly, if I'm not mistaken, you had another project in the same year, which was around big data of the past for the future of Europe. Right. So do you feel that, right now, as we are going through the crisis, that European countries are actually collecting that data so that, we could build this big data repository, so to say, that can help us for the future?
Well, the big data of the past is the European Time Machine project that you're referring to. And there we are at the very beginning. So the aim, what we want to build, is essentially a mirror world of 2,000 years of history, where we then can access information about the past, link them, and put them together, of course, to help researchers in history, but also to make the data accessible, for example, to tourists, that you can have like virtual time travel, that you can travel someplace and then experience how it looked like 1,000 years ago, or even not to travel and just stay at home and do your entire vacation or your entire trip and completely virtually. Of course, this is a huge effort, and I don't think we will realize that in a centralized system. So we're rather trying to adopt the techniques that were used to build the internet, using requests for comments and standardization, such that everybody can essentially explore his or her own history and then make it available for others. There's also interesting licensing concepts that have to be kept in mind. There's institutions like Europeana, they are already publishing archives and cultural heritage such that it can be made available to a general public. So there's a lot of things going on in this sector right now, but we are at the very first steps. And this is a large-scale project. We are hoping to get significant financing by the European Union. Now everything is a bit delayed, but we're still not giving up.
Yeah, sounds fascinating. The European Time Machine. Yeah. Okay. The next thing is, so I believe you are a big proponent of known operator learning. Can you just elaborate and help the layman understand what the known operator learning system is, so to say?
It's actually not such a big thing. And I think to most people it will make immediately sense. The idea is that you essentially can mix deep learning methods, but also traditional signal processing methods, as long as they are differentiable, or at least as long as you can compute a subgradient, which is actually a broad, a wide number of techniques that are suitable for this. And in my special area of expertise, we do a lot of medical imaging and medical image reconstruction. And there we see now algorithms that can reconstruct magnificent images, but they are entirely black box, and we don't understand why they are assembling those images. Now, if you are able to mix them with traditional signal processing, like the geometry of the system that is typically known, we can, first of all, we can show that this reduces the maximum error bound of the learning problem, which kind of makes sense, that if you know already something, that you don't have to learn it again. And this also enables us to build systems to be trained on much fewer data, because we have much fewer parameters, allows to reduce the number of data sets that we need for training. And third, interesting is that for the algorithms that emerge from this, the parts that we already know, they can be analyzed with the classical error analysis and measurement techniques that we know from classical signal processing. So we can see which parts cannot be explained by the classical methods, and then only exchange the small block. So you could say we have a way of dosing deep learning to get close to the results that we see in complete black box systems, but still have the advantage of being explainable. And I think if you're in medical domain, it makes sense because you, first of all, have not access to all the big data that you would require. And second, you also want how you call it, a regulator. Yeah, of course, you want to also be able to explain to a regulator what is your system doing and why is it safe to use it in clinical practice.
I see. Gotcha. Just going back, I think you kind of talked about and alluded to like GDPR. Mm-hmm. And I would be curious in terms of obviously the GDPR regulations, as well as, data security and privacy standards that exist in Europe. Do you believe that in any way that kind of limits the ability of, kind of like big data technologies being adopted more, or the spread, or do you think it's well balanced out? What are your opinions about it?
Yeah, you often hear critique that GDPR is limiting machine learning in Europe. Now, of course, you don't have access to these very large data sets. But of course, we see large data sets being produced and published in the US. And if you look very closely in these data sets, what you often realize is that there is a problem with label quality. So we see that we can't solve those tasks really well, even if we use these deep learning methods, because the labels are extremely noisy. And in particular, in medical domain, you want to make sure that you have good labels and that you do good predictions. So now the question is, if we have access to all this data, will it really bring this advantage, or are we putting patients at risk without really guaranteeing that we can get this advantage? And this is, of course, a conflict that needs to be discussed. So I think with the approaches like data donation and getting ethical approval, and then also getting good labels for smaller data sets, we can also get good systems. We will see how we will advance. Right now, the deep learning systems and machine learning system, they require tons of data, much more data that we would use to train a human.
Yeah.
Now, the question is also if we will achieve a point where we get systems that achieve similar performance by building better models and more generalizable models. So, yeah. It's a difficult thing, but I'm not completely convinced that if we abolish GDPR, we would have a large surge in medical research. So there's checks and balances, and I think Europe is doing pretty good in those checks and balances. It's not that the research is impossible, but you have to pay attention to regulations. And we already showed that we could also gather data at large scale, even GDPR compliant.
Sure. Okay. So how do you, kind of looking ahead, how do you imagine workplaces and businesses of tomorrow in terms of their ability to utilize AI and automation? Because we are, kind of just in the very beginning of this journey. So I would be curious as to how do you visualize things, let's say, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Yeah, so I'm really curious how things, of course, you can always say predictions are difficult, in particular when they are about the future. What I find interesting about the time right now is that we realize how many things we can actually do in a digital way. So we don't have to travel to do an interview, we can do it via video chat. And now we see that digital methods are accelerated dramatically. We see also that many things can be done in home office and that we actually save time because we don't have to transfer between our workplace and our home. So this is going to be interesting. And we will also see that we can automate many of the little things. So this will, of course, save us time that we then can invest for other things. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say. And of course, we also have to keep in mind what people really want. Right now, we are forced to this digitization. And of course, I'm as a computer scientist, I can work with this. And if you hear people out there saying, oh, the whole world is decelerating and there's not so much to do, I don't feel this. Actually, my world is exploding and I have a lot to do. And it's much more work than I would have traditionally. So I'm not feeling a deceleration. I feel an acceleration. So
I see. Okay. I guess final question. You are a professor, so would be curious in terms of if you were to advise somebody, a student who's kind of just graduating and evaluating, AI or machine learning as a potential, option. What advice would you give to those students?
Well, so far, what I've seen is that you should always follow a path that makes sense for you. If you have interest in machine learning and you think that's something you can get excited about, then of course I can recommend learning about those methods and then applying them in practice. But if you are just doing it for the money or because you think that there's a lot of things going on and everybody is doing this now, it may not be the good choice for you. So you have to feel comfortable because it's your life. And if you have to go to work every day and you feel it as a burden, then maybe you should reconsider and think about whether you want to follow a different direction. So.
Right. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Professor Andreas Maier, for taking the time to talk to us today and providing your insights into this very fascinating field that, is extremely exciting at this time.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Take care. Have a great day. Stay safe and wish your family also the best.
Same to you. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.